Perfect. There we go. All right, we're back. We ate wings. We cleaned ourselves up. Cheers. Cheers. Happy Sundays.
Happy Sunday.
Sundays coming down.
Sunday fun day.
Social media is broken. It's a dumpster fire filled with trash people. What are we gonna do about it? How are we gonna fix it? What is the transition? What is the way out? The only way out is forward.
What do you think is the biggest problem?
I think it's just eroding. It's eroding people's mental happiness and clarity about what's real and what's not real, and emphasizing values that aren't and emotions that are not productive to the individual or society as a whole. But they just to sell ads to make money for these corporations.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that people are finding one of the many things. To your point, is that people are finding happiness in the validation of others,
From others.
others' validation, right? So like you post something, I replied to fucking some Twitter thing.
He's famous now. Go follow him online.
I just replied to some Twitter thread and I got a bunch of likes from it, more so than I've ever gotten on any social media thing ever.
And the first time you posted there in years.
Yeah, and there was an instant, like, I just found myself checking it over and over and just kind of being like, there was a sense of like, hey, I'm
important.
Look at this guy.
Look at this guy. He's important.
But then it was like, I give a shit about anything that anyone's saying? Actually, no. I really don't care about the comments associated to it, negative or positive. And it's not that I don't care, but it's like, these are just talking heads and like I don't know any of these people.
Or Russian bots.
The people who liked it, the people who didn't, or Russian bots. Definitely bots are a big problem. Huge problem. And I think that, people are searching for the validation of the masses. And we all know that when people act in mass, they make pretty poor decisions. When we make decisions on an individual basis, we do quite well. So I think that I would agree with that vein of it being a problem. But I do think advertising, not the individual companies, I don't think they're bad. I don't think the tech companies are necessarily bad. I don't think that the advertisers are bad. I don't think the ad tech companies that support the advertisers are bad. I think that the idea of social media being incentivized financially by advertising is the problem. And that's because you're trying to get as many views as is humanly possible, regardless of whether it's good or not.
Well, that's the whole thing, though. Is like, how else would you do it? Because there's one way where small businesses or business in general just utilize the platform to make money, to promote themselves, to get a sale. Mm-hmm. But the way it is now, it's like it's a never-ending dark hole of impressions of like almost like brand saturation or awareness versus like communication of a service and translating into a sale. Is that correct or no?
Yeah, I mean, you can embed, like this podcast. Uh-huh. You have a real estate business. Mm-hmm. People can know about that real estate business as a part of the content that we're creating here. I have a social media app that I'm creating, infusing it, plugging it right now as we're talking.
So that we're talking about, like how are there other apps or how is there other avenues of how, if we altered the social media system, that would help this problem?
I think that the biggest thing is the passive viewer, the lack of participation of the passive viewer of social media on Instagram or on Bumble or whatever.
To clarify that, so just meaning that you're scrolling through, not touching.
You don't do anything.
You just look
at it. You
don't like it.
You don't dislike it. You just.
But you are
just pass through.
But you are looking at it.
Like, yeah. So like in our democratic system, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. We have voters, and they're the only ones that matter. If you don't vote, you don't have a voice. And you can post on social media and you can protest, but at the end of the day, if people say, I have more like respect for someone who went to the polls and voted for a candidate that I don't agree with than someone who I agree with who didn't vote. Mm. because at least they participated in the system and their voices were heard. And so I think on social media that everyone needs to participate in one way or another. So what we're doing on Darwin is that, and the app is called Darwin, it is that you see a piece of content and you can't just scroll past it. You either swipe to the left and you say, I don't like that, or you swipe to the right and say, I do. You can't be a passive viewer. And because of that,
I like that.
All of the content is then stack ranked. The first thing that you see is the thing that people swipe right on the most as a percent of the total viewership. So if something gets seen 1,000 times and 999 times it got swiped right, then something got seen 100 million times and 50 million times people swipe left.
Well, wouldn't that snowball in effect?
The thing that got 999 swipe rights would be higher up than the thing that got 100 million views. And it's not about view count. It's about, did people like it or did they not like it?
But wouldn't it also kind of be like a snowball effect? Because like the more you like it, the more you'll feature it, and then
the more people swipe right on it, the higher it goes. But then it buoys, right? Like if you get a piece of content that starts going up real fast, and then people are like, I'm not so sure about it, then it starts going down again. And it's like it's a percentile. It's just like a.
And then why do people do that? It's just because of how it's related to the amount of views. Like if you see something has 1 million views versus 1,000 views, your perception of if you like it or not will change based on how many views it has.
No, it's more so that the average goes up. So it becomes more statistically relevant. It starts going up and up and up and up and up. And if it continues along its percent of people swiping right, then it keeps going up.
Okay.
But the statistical volume grows. You go from 1,000 views of your friends, maybe, to 100 million views. You're not going to get the same number of people swiping right on it. It averages out.
Because they don't personally know you.
Sort of the law of averages scenario here. It'll arrive at what it's supposed to be over time.
But then but one also thing is that all these contents pieces, they're contextually relevant to the platform, right? So like certain things perform well on certain platforms just because of the nature of the audience, the algorithms, and then also just the what do you call it? The UI.
Yeah,
the UI of it, right?
So this is a vertical video app, right? So
which no one's done before.
No one's done that.
So silly.
Vertical video.
Actually,
crazy.
Snapchat, right?
Crazy. Snapchat, Instagram, and just about everybody. TikTok at this point.
I guess okay. Sorry.
The only intersection
I know stuff.
here is that this app is meant for meeting new people. So you can search people in your local area who have posted vertical video content, search for them by a hashtag, request to connect and have a conversation with them. So it's sort of like an intersection between a vertical video app that's for messaging your friends and, one of these apps where you swipe right on people and request to connect. Is sort of these two things intersecting. You can search within 5 miles people who like podcasts and find markets.
And does it integrate with other platforms, or it only solely exclusively lists on those platforms?
It only lists, so it's actually an invite only community. So the only people who can see the content on this app are the people on the app. You can upload videos you've made from other social media apps, but it's an insular community. There's no posting out. You can only post into it. So you could create
posting out meaning
you couldn't push a video from Darwin to Instagram.
I see.
But you could take a video you made on Instagram and put it into Darwin.
Okay, interesting. And then is it supposed? What's the main goal? Is it supposed to connect? Is it supposed to be like a connecting? Yeah, connecting through content.
Yes, exactly. That's it. Is it rather than the vanity of your profile picture being the lead gen for creating new connections? How beautiful you are, how clever your one-liner was in your summary. It's more about here's what I do in my life. This is how I live my life. I am golfing, I'm skateboarding, I'm rapping, I'm podcasting.
Okay.
Post some of that stuff, let people find it. If they like it, they can request to connect. You can have a conversation with them.
Nice.
Yeah, but so going back to the broader.
Yeah. So how's this going to fix? How's it going to fix social media, or at least improve it?
The main thing is that inflammatory content, left, right, up, down, doesn't matter. Political. What I'm saying is that content that has shock value, but people don't deeply like. So those people are like passively going by and saying, "Yeah, okay,
like
I'm not going to like it. I watched it, but I don't like it."
Like a World Star video where someone gets kicked in the head.
Right. It's like, well, that might get a like actually, but or swipe right. But more so someone, let's say, I think of Little Tay. She's a perfect use case. Young girl in her 7 years old or something. All about the money. That. And she's dropping curse words and she's clearly being raised poorly. And you wouldn't want to see that type of character in your own children.
Her mom got fired from her real estate company because of it.
That's what happens when you teach your kid to jump on top of a Bugatti and throw cash around and tell people, shitty things about each other. Ugh. So people might be like, "Oh shit, that's a crazy video."
Poor Little Tay.
But then they swipe left on it because it's sort of like, "No, I don't approve of this. Yeah. It was entertaining, but I don't approve of it."
Yeah.
And I certainly don't approve of the person who posted it. I have no interest in requesting to connect with them. Now, I'm not trying to go after YouTube. I'm not trying to go after Instagram. I'm not trying to go after, any of the connection apps. I'm just trying to find a little sliver intersection between all of that. And hopefully it's a really good experience.
So what's going to be the first genres of videos that are going to be?
I would imagine
because follow-up question is because, like I said before, context and format matter. It's like a 90-second video is so different from a 2-minute, 30-second video, whereas like YouTube sometimes has 12-minute videos or 22-minute videos, which perform way better.
Sure.
And so like, is there going to, and also like a book or a podcast or something that has, I always like the, what's it called? It's like some philosophy thing where it's like, the boundaries give you freedom because you know where everything ends. So you can do anything you want within this thing. Like the Beatles only did 4-track recording. And they're like, "Oh, all I have is 4 tracks," but you can do something crazy. But then you get some people who are producers and they're like, "I have 1 million tracks."
Yeah, I got you.
You know where I'm coming. So this guy gets it.
Yeah, I got you. I mean, I think, there's literal boundaries to your point of, how much vertical video is out there. So what I suspect, and having talked to the people that I know who we're going to be working with, they already have content from vertical video from Instagram stories or from Snapchat or TikTok. And so really, it's those 3 platforms and the vertical video that's already been created. The thing is this is static. We're not, the content doesn't disappear, and we have no intention of having people use this as like, "Hey, this is what I'm up to in this hour," and it's going to disappear. What we want to see is like, what's the most interesting and fun representation of who you are, of all the video you've created over the last, 2 years. It was that video people like the most, and this is the best representation of you. Post that on Darwin, and let that be your expression of yourself. And so I would imagine you're going to see a lot of content pulled from other social media apps to begin with, and then people start probably creating on Darwin a little bit more later.
What about exclusivity of personalities? Like I don't know if you read this weekend the big controversy about Microsoft's rival to Twitch is just launched, and they swiped. They swiped Ninja.
Yeah.
Which I'm also like kind of like fuck Ninja, but at the same time.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So like apparently Twitch was really profitable when they first started. Basically the deal was if you have an Amazon Prime account, everyone has one pass.
Yeah.
And you can subscribe each month, and each creator got $5.99 a month for every Prime member to subscribe. We had one per month, which is very profitable. But once that program ended, they became extremely stingy with a lot of creators who left. They wanted them to leave YouTube just to go to Twitch. But now Ninja, who got paid $30 million, or maybe a little bit less, to promote what was that game? The newest game of the Call of Duty. The
newest Call of Duty?
The newest Call of Duty that was like in the Fortnite genre of like the big MMORPG. Anyways, he's exclusivity. He dropped. He's out, man. So like,
I mean,
are you gonna get some creators on there? Or
no. Well, no, we don't want exclusivity. We do want influencers. We want every influencer on there so that they can promote their other platforms. So I want you to, influencers on Darwin, to the degree that they just want to meet people. Like this is not a platform for the masses.
Yeah.
This is a platform for people who like to create content to meet other people who create content.
Okay.
So if you have an Instagram profile, throw it in there. If you have a YouTube channel, throw it in there. If you have a Twitch channel, throw it in there. Like we're all about them clicking out and going to Twitch. Like we're not trying to compete with those platforms at all.
Okay.
But having said that, I do think that the problem with a lot of these platforms, again, is the passive viewership. Is that it's only the people who are, like, I love a kick in the head. Like, that's great. Like, and then like the 17 other people who are like, yeah, I mean, like, I don't really like to see other people hurt. And so I'm just going to kind of keep scrolling here. That was like kind of funny. It's those 17 other people that didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
And like, that's why we're at this perpetual state of inflammatory bullshit.
And I also think from a client perspective of people who spend money on advertising, I think it's kind of bullshit sometimes where you pay $100, $200, $1,000 to Facebook or Instagram, and like, oh, you got all these impressions.
And what happened?
And it's just a deep dark hole of whatever. You're like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Or like Zillow, for instance, for my business, like they're like, you get all these impressions, but then a month later, they change their impression algorithm based on how many views are in that neighborhood because of properties that shot up just coincidentally because they hit the market and all that stuff. And it's like, you're like, oh, that's not the same thing that I signed up for.
That's one other thing is there's no algorithm in what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I do agree that like if you're going to have an algorithm, post it publicly. Let everyone know exactly what were the inputs and decisioning and weighting of that algorithm, because all we're doing is saying this video was voted on as the most popular video.
And content creators can mess with the impressions temporarily on certain months for certain things if like certain products come to the market in that genre. Like I don't know about others, but specifically for real estate, if like 4 buildings open up in an area, then someone like Zillow be like, oh, we have this many more impressions in this video in this area because this building came up, there's 1,000 units. I'm like, so we're going to charge, we have either have more inventory to sell or that inventory is now hotter and it costs more money because there's more impression. Not necessarily because the platform is better, but because content creator, meaning a realtor or a developer or a property owner, opened up a slot.
Oh, interesting.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, that's, for me, I'll do that every once in a while. I'm like, oh yeah, so-and-so, for certain people, like they paid $1,000 for X amount of impressions in a certain area just because they locked in a contract 7 years ago. And then now the whole landscape has changed and they bought 10,000 impressions for, this is not true, but like $5 versus someone who buys 1,000 impressions spends $5,000.
So what is, I mean, I know you're in the market, so I'll ask you a question that you can answer. What would be the best improvement to real estate discovery? Social, it's not social media, it's more just
I think it's all kind of, I think with like, it's the one thing is like real estate's nice because it's a very basic business. It's not rocket science. It's a sales business. It applies to all other small businesses and scalable large businesses. Is that I think that platforms, like a lot of businesses, platforms have kind of like stranglehold the whole market. And then now it's kind of branching out of like, all right, Zillow bought up every single small player in New York. Now they own everything and you can't do shit about it. Either pay them or don't pay them. And it could drastically affect you or not. But then certain people
regional monopoly.
Yeah, exactly. And then also you could do where like your personal brand or like hyper localized brands. We talked about this a couple years ago. Hyper localized brands become a commodity that, or not a commodity, but I guess I don't know what you call it, but like
premium.
A premium, but you have to develop it yourself or use someone to help you develop it so you can stand out from these platforms even like the social media, like YouTube, whatever.
Yeah. I think having a niche is probably the thing that's why we have local, microbreweries popping up. Right? You have Budweiser and Coors, and then people are like, you know what? Like, I live in Brooklyn. I want to see a Brooklyn beer. Yeah. I'll buy the Brooklyn beer, and then it gets bought by Coors.
Well, even an example with like someone like Louder, like InfoWars or Louder with Crowder, someone who got banned. I'm saying that their brand is almost bigger. Not their brand is bigger than the platform.
Gives them publicity.
Yeah.
Sure.
Or Conor McGregor, who his brand, Conor McGregor, is bigger than the UFC. So he had this strong arm of like all industries through the internet have consolidated into giant platforms that own them, and now it's kind of like in the
influencer themselves is.
And now they're like the second layer is the influencers, and now they have their network. Like for instance, you follow Your Mom's House podcast with Tom Segura.
I don't, but
he's one of the first podcasters. Hilarious, like so funny, famous comedian. But now he has a podcast network where it's creating a second layer on top of it, where like if you're a younger brand, you need to like leverage yourself on another brand who's already on a platform just to get a voice. So like we're getting on this third layer of the internet where it's like the first layer was high speed, the second layer was platforms, the third layer is now personal brands that translate across all platforms. We're like, so that's the next layer of the internet that's kind of happening right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. My friend runs an influencer platform. And I think, one of the biggest appeals is it's a cross screen appeal.
Yeah.
So you can make a partnership. This doesn't happen very often, but you can make a partnership. Like for instance, Jordan just got, the new, Zion Williams. Like you partner with an influencer now. Jordan's brand is going to be anywhere you see Zion.
What's
right?
Zion?
Zion's a basketball player. He's the number one draft pick and supposed to be.
I know stuff.
Yeah, you know stuff. So, but that's so like the advertiser cut through all of the platforms and they're just going straight to the influencer. Yeah. Now they're a cross-screen advertising solution because their logo is on the shoes that they wear on the court, in any social media that they post. If they're in, a car commercial, whatever it is, that brand is associated with that influencer for a period of time.
And also now you're seeing influencers taking over entire companies, whereas like Meek Mill bought into Lids. So like Meek Mill is now an owner in Lids because they're like, oh, this guy would just do a commercial, or Conor McGregor was like doing ads and now he has his own proper whiskey. And so his brand has transcended the production to consumer, where like the attention is the most pivotal point, where it was before it was just, let's do an ad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and the ad it's known to be an ad by the consumer. So there's a certain they're a little different.
Awareness. There's an awareness of you're not being bamboozled or coerced or anything.
Then there's social
P. Diddy
media.
with Ciroc. P. Diddy with Ciroc did it first.
Yeah, well, or even at a higher level, I would imagine is Jay-Z and Beyonce creating Tidal, right?
Sure.
Where they got so big as influencers, they created their own platform.
Yeah,
and it's vertical expansion, or so you're just getting every layer to the business.
Well, that's something like Darwin would be able to differentiate, where you could really quantify where a brand or a quality of content would be very indicative or very transparent or clear about what is influential and what is not.
See, now that's a place where I'd be okay with advertising being in it, is if it's an equal. So the problem with sponsorships and promotions and social media is that the user has no choice and no voice on whether it's successful or not. They are forced to see that thing. YouTube's done a good job of letting people skip things, but on Darwin, if we did have a brand integration, people can swipe left on that and goodbye. That ad starts to deprecate the brand associated to that piece of content. You get what you create. If you create a terrible piece of content and people swipe left on it and no one sees it, so be it. So create something good. People swipe right on it. It gets seen more. You did a good job. And it's actually a good place to test your content if you're an influencer. Because if you're an influencer,
it's like coming soon.
Exactly. It's like a little sneak peek. It's an exclusive community. I created this piece of content. I'm not sure if I'm ready to blow it up. Let me see how it does on Darwin for a day or two. If it goes up and it's getting good, feedback from the community, all right, now I'm going to post it on my social media page. And we would hope to be that little test run.
No choice, no voice.
Yeah. And if you're BMW and you have a new, video ad, maybe test it out, see how people swipe left or right on it there. I mean, now I would.
No choice, no voice, no choice. No, that's true.
No, it's an interesting concept of how the influencer and the content needs to have more of a voice and viewability rather than just like how much clout that person has. People are forced to see things. They don't get to vote on it. I don't consider a vote, but that's my. Yeah. It's a marginalized vote. It's a misrepresentation.
And also, sometimes you impulsively like things, and you're just like,
yeah, that's true.
Boobs.
That's true.
Cool. Is there anything else you want to say about the little Darwinian solution, the final solution?
I definitely don't want to refer to it like that.
I'm joking. It was a joke. It was a joke.
But I would not have anything to add other than it's going to be exciting. It's coming out probably sometime in August.
Coming to a phone in your pocket.
Yeah, but that's and I mean the thing is it's a passion project, and I put a lot of work into it. Very proud of it, and I hope people enjoy it. But I didn't just do this podcast just for that. I like spending time with you.
Yeah, of course.
It's great to
know about him.
See your voice, your ideas.
Thoughts. Thank you. Seeing the voice. Okay, cool. So anything else over here?
No, I'm good.
Okay. High five. Did it. Cool.
Nice,
yay.
Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Good. Did it. Sweet.
How
we if we want to do more, we can. We're